Welcome to the podcast The Embodiment Talks, a podcast by the Embodiment Lab with Marion van Opijnen. Taking your role as change agent of societal or education systems requires vision and courage. This podcast will help you take this pioneer's role with more body awareness and confidence, without losing sight of the connection with others. We dive into how we as humans are hardwired, how systems change works, and how both are related. I will take you on my own quest, and I will share background information, talk to experts, and share exercises. We will think, feel, and act. Great that you're here, and happy listening. Great that you're here again for this new episode of the Embodiment Talks. And I just came back from a full day of inquiry around essence work, because I'm assisting in a weekend, in a series of weekends about essence work, which I really love, and it was so great to be back in this community to be able to support a group and to dive into the material myself as well. And so we do in essence work, we do a lot of inquiry. And inquiry is a method where you share moment by moment what you are experiencing in the moment. And usually we share what we are experiencing in the moment based on a certain question or a certain topic. And so we had several questions today as well. And something that came up to me this morning was that inquiry work requires radical honesty. And as that word just came to me, like radical honesty, I was just like inquiry into that notion. What actually is radical honesty? And how could radical honesty serve us in change? And that's why I came to make this podcast. So I'd like to take you on my journey today into the notions of radical honesty. And first of all, when one of the things why it came to me, because inquiry does require a radical honesty, but also being in this community where everybody just shares in a moment what is happening inside, and we usually do that in pairs. So one is sharing and the other one is witnessing and listening to what the sharer is actually sharing, without giving any expression to it, not asking questions, not giving any facial expressions, just really being like a kind of a Buddha while you're listening, but totally present in the listening. And experiencing inside yourself what actually is happening when you listen to the other person. So I just realized that being in a community that is so radically honest really gave me a feeling of safety, gave me a feeling of, being able to be with everything that is present inside of me. And and I'll probably say more about this later in this podcast, because I first like to dive a little bit deeper in what actually am I talking about when I talk about radical honesty, and also why is that word radical so important for me, which could also be pure honesty, but it's not just honesty. So if I talk about just honesty, it's about sharing what is in a moment. And what we tend to do when we share in an honest way about what is in a moment is that we share about the experiences that are more at the surface. It's like also when we do a body scan, and if we would share what is present in the body scan out loud, and then we would usually communicate all the physical sensations that we experience in the moment. And that's very honest. And I can be honest about my emotions, and I can be honest about my thoughts. But the radicality or the pureness that I find important to name as well is that with sharing what is actually happening inside of me, including my movements, including my thoughts, including my my emotions, and just sharing everything, even if the words are ugly, because all of us sometimes have ugly words. We just have learned not to express them. And they somehow want to come out. They want to be expressed in a safe environment where they can be received and where it's totally fine and where everybody knows, like, okay, this is what is now, maybe an ugly word, but like 10 seconds later, it can be completely different again. So when we are so honest about whatever is alive in us, and everybody in that community does that, then we all know that everything that is being expressed is just in the moment and is changing continuously into new things. And it actually can change because we share it. So if I see my hands now, I see my hands moving, like, and I'm making that movement as well from here to the front. And if I inquire into that, I slow down. And it's also interesting, like, okay, it's kind of expressing a kind of a circle, I notice. So if I now inquire into that movement of my hands, it's a circle that, like, it's coming from down here and then it's being expressed. So I can inquire in that motion that I'm making, and then there's all new information coming to the surface, and that only happens because I share it. And by giving it words, it allows me to go to the next, because if I don't give it words, it can't come out and it will stay there, and it kind of gets stuck, and I get stuck in it, as in a thought, or so yeah, it's very important to express whatever is there, even if it's something that you may not be so proud of. And there's another thing to that word radical as well for me, because radical honesty is an embodied experience, because it's an inquiry in what we actually feel. It's not sharing and being honest about what we feel, but it's an inquiry in what we feel, and being curious to what it is, because often I don't know, and I just by following the movement, following my my words that sometimes surprise me from when they come from bottom up. They can totally surprise me, and I think, like, oh, okay, that is what is actually alive here. So yeah, I find it kind of hard to explain. So in my next episode, I will give you an exercise that you can just try it out yourself as well. But for now, yeah, let's just leave it with, like, that radical honesty is a embodied experience of what is in the moment. And the embodiment part is important because that actually makes it in a moment. When we start thinking about it, or when we only share our thoughts, and sharing thoughts could also be a thought about what we physically feel, but without inquiring into that, it's more factual, and a thought is in a moment, but the content of a thought never is. The content of a thought is always about something, and that is either in the future or in the past. And if we talk about physical sensations, it usually is in the past, because by the time you've expressed it, it's already different again. And that is also what I like in that radical honesty, is that it can be different any moment. And because we allow it to be different every moment, everything that is alive inside of me can be shared. So in that sense, and I also see that it has kind of two sides to it, because it is about sharing what is in the moment, so I experience things, and I can share that with you, and you can receive that. You can just be present with what I share, and there I can inquire into whatever is alive in me. But there's also the other side to it, and that is the receiver side. So if I'm radically honest, then of course I want somebody else to be radically honest with me as well, without censoring anything, just sharing, knowing that that's now, and it can be different the next moment, and different again the very next moment. And so then it doesn't really matter what is being shared, as long as we do it in an honest, in an honest way, in a fair way. So it's about my experience. I experience things in relation to somebody else. So if somebody else is sharing to me, that has an effect on me, and that can be a nice effect, can cheer me up, but can also be an effect that I feel offended, or something is said that really touches me, which doesn't have to do anything with the other person, but it's something in me, a previous experience that now repeats it in this experience with this person. So with receiving the radical honesty of somebody else, that also brings a lot of positive and negative arousal in myself, and to stay present without that, because it's the other one sharing. So the only thing I can do is staying present with what the other one is sharing, and what my reactions, or what my how that resonates with me, what my experiences are in the moment. So it's those two sides. It's about the listening and the containment that I can give to my own experiences in the moment, and my honest sharing towards somebody else or my environment. And now what fascinates me, because I think this is such a key thing towards change, because when we talk about change, there's so much arousal inside of us, and we rarely share what really happens inside of us when we talk about change. And I know that myself as well. I often can think like, okay, yeah, those feelings or what's happening inside of me, that just comes with change, because we live in hectic and complex times, and that is what it is. So resonates with me. It gives me experiences, but what can I do? But when I do not share that, then nobody knows as well. So nobody knows what really is going on inside of me, and how I relate to the upcoming change, or to a current situation in a complex world. And so it's kind of, it's about being fair and honest to myself by sharing that, but it's also about being open and transparent to the context where something actually happens. For example, in a company or something like that, and change in companies is a daily thing. It happens everywhere, and very often. And we hardly ever talk about what it actually does to us at a personal level. And it's so easy to just swallow that and think like, okay, it's part of the job. Yeah, we need to change because things don't work, and I just take it, and all the insecurity that comes with that, and the feelings, the moods, everything. I'm not going to share that at work, because maybe some people are getting laid off, and then maybe it's me who will get laid off because I'm sharing what I really feel about it. And so I rather just share that at home. And so we really keep a lot for ourselves. And I believe that if we would be able to create an environment where we could truly be radical honest in what is alive in us, that would just give so much information of the undercurrent to the surface, which could be so helpful in the change that we really need. Because then we can build systems around who we are as humans, and around what is actually important to us. But can we just be radically honest? And I think there's a few things to that. We need to relearn it, because we don't know anymore how to be radically honest. And also, I think that while I'm talking, I'm kind of inquiring in this as well. So you probably hear that in how I talk, but yeah, because if we are radically honest, that also means that we don't censor things. We can maybe use some words that kind of come across a little bit friendly, but sometimes we may not be able to do that. And then the question is, can we share everything at any moment in any context? And I think that is only possible when we are more familiar to this. So that means that we need to practice. And then the question is, how can we practice? And that starts with ourselves. Can you start tuning into whatever is alive in you, and not just share like, okay, now I feel an itch here, or I feel a cramp there, or no, to really allow time for that, what you actually really feel, and share that maybe first to yourself, give it words, and then see what evolves from that, or otherwise share it with somebody else that you feel like, is a trustworthy person that you're there to really show up with. So it kind of starts with ourselves, and it also requires, I was thinking today, like, what makes that I feel so safe in this environment that I feel I can share everything that I want to share. And it has to do with safety as well. So how do we create a safe space, a safe place to work or to be? And safety comes with openness and transparency, and safety comes with conditions that are like human centered, that suit us as humans, and that means that it is an environment or a context where we can relate to each other. And in many businesses there is competition amongst each other. Like, for example, if we have a bonus system or something like that, how can I be totally honest when at the same time I'm competing with somebody else for sales or other things that you may get a bonus for? So a lot has to do with the environment that we create, and also with the time that we give people to speak. So, for example, using a talking stick is something that can be very useful as well, to allow people to at least start sharing what they want to share about a certain topic, even before sharing what they feel about it, but already to let people know that there is space for them to talk and that they listened at. So another thing with that is that, can you truly listen? Or when you listen, are you ready? Oh, how am I going to react? What am I going to say? What do I feel about this? I mean, totally honest in the moment, then what I feel about it when I hear it may be something else than what I feel about it when I start sharing about the same topic. So it's kind of lost opportunity of radical honesty if we start thinking, okay, what actually is going on inside of me, and what is it that how do I want to react to what somebody else is sharing? So what's my response going to be? So I feel it's a really fascinating thing, and I definitely inquire more into that in the coming time period. And yeah, I will share an exercise in the next episode. I hope you will enjoy that. And let me know in the comments as well, like what is radical honesty for you? Let's just start a discussion about that. And I'm really curious to hear more views, because it's my dive into, and I like to hear from you what you think about it. So I hope this gave already some insights on what we're talking about, and yeah, I think this is it for now. So looking forward to meet you again in the next episode. Great that you listened to this episode of the Embodiment Talks. Please let me know your thoughts about this episode or the insights that you gained. Email me to the address in the show notes. If you want to get in touch with me, or if you have a question or topic that you want to know more about, don't hesitate to send me an email as well. Do you want to be kept up to date? Like this podcast in your favorite podcast app. You can help me by giving a thumbs up or leaving a comment so that this podcast will reach more people. You can find more information about my work on my website www.embodimentlab.nl or my YouTube channel Embodiment Lab. Thanks for listening, and meet you at the next episode.